back. I'm Nick Majerus, and time now for something a little bit different. Each night, this time on Late Night Live, I like to highlight the work of someone who's been doing something a little bit out of the ordinary, finding out about them and what makes them tick. Tonight, I'm talking to Stephen and Lindsay of Amnesty International and the performance poet Kieren. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Nick, for having us.
So, Amnesty International, tell us about it. What is it?
Well, Amnesty's one of these organisations, and I should say up front, I'm far from an expert on it, but I'm here, so I can tell you what I think. Amnesty is one of those organisations that virtually everyone has heard of, but isn't necessarily sure what it is, because it's just been around for so long, over 50 years in fact. So, in essence, it's an organisation that allows local people, wherever they are, to successfully get together to protest against injustices put upon people wherever they happen to be around the world.
Right, I see. So give me an example of a common injustice that you guys would campaign against.
Well, the essence of it, the essence of the organisation when it started was campaigning on behalf of prisoners of conscience. So people who had been imprisoned because of their beliefs. So a good example today would be a blogger in Saudi Arabia called Raif Badawi, and today's the 3rd anniversary of him being imprisoned in Saudi, and he was imprisoned because he started blogging and expressing opinions about certain aspects of life in Saudi Arabia. They don't take too kindly to that type of thing. Luckily for him, that meant imprisonment, because the alternative could have been a lot worse in a country like Saudi. So there's Amnesty, amongst many organisations, is fighting his case to basically have him released, and for the Saudi authorities to stop the sentencing, which is not only imprisonment but is 1,000 lashes apparently over a period of time. So it's pretty severe stuff.
So what would you say to someone that said that in Saudi Arabia they have a different culture, they have a different set of rules, that's none of your business?
I would say fair point. It's fair that someone thinks that. However, Amnesty the essence of organisations like Amnesty, and it's not just them, is that there are certain basic human rights that everyone should have. And using Raif Badawi as the example, he should have the ability to express his opinions without, as long as he's not inciting violence, which he isn't. So there's obviously some limits on these things. However, if he's just expressing his opinions peacefully, then it doesn't matter whether he's in Manchester or Saudi. The treatment should be the way the result of him doing what he does should be the same.
Because I guess some people may nowadays argue that after the war in Iraq, concept, I think they call it liberal interventionism, is that right? Where you have a liberal perspective and you intervene in other countries in order to force them to do as you say. And I guess after the war in Iraq, that's something that people are getting nervous around nowadays. Are you encouraging the world's policeman ethic, or how does it work?
I think the key thing for me is that it's not about imposing everything about the way that, say, we do things in Britain, because Britain's, not perfect. No one's saying that's the case. We're just using us as an example because we are here. No one's saying every country should be the same, same as Britain or the same as wherever. It's about these basic human rights which should just apply, such that it doesn't matter what your peaceful opinions are. It shouldn't matter what colour you are, gender you are, sexuality you are, or whatever, as regards how you are then treated. Certainly as regards being imprisoned or punished for such things, and that's the essential element of this. It's about trying to get to a point where people aren't being adversely treated because of these things.
I see. So, is it all about international work, or do you work locally as well?
Well, Amnesty as an organisation is Amnesty International.
Yeah.
It's an organisation that started in Britain in 1960, I think, or thereabouts. It's now headquartered in the States. So it is an international organisation with local groups, country and local groups all over the world, and many parts of the world. The essential element of Amnesty is local activism, which is where, for example, Manchester Amnesty comes in. So the local group, the local Manchester Amnesty group, is nothing more or less than a group of people who believe that they should try to make a difference in certain cases like the one that we described earlier.
I see. So, Kieren, how is it that you came to be involved in Amnesty?
Well, I've been on the periphery for a bit, haven't I? I mean, Steve saw me perform once, and he was doing the first ever acoustic Amnesty, which was a fundraiser for Amnesty Manchester. And I came along to that, and I've done every single one since, because they've not just raised money for Amnesty, they've done it for Big Issue North and for Musicians Without Borders and loads of organisations that it's really good to just get involved and get on with, because I think, without getting too political at a time like this, where maybe the most vulnerable are being ignored, it's up to people to just actually muscle up, roll the sleeves up and get involved.
I think you're allowed to get political. We're on a political talk show. We're talking about political issues. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Okay, so when it comes to the local Amnesty branch, you join up, you get involved. What is the substance of what it is you do? Because a long time ago I was a member of Amnesty, and it largely involved writing letters, as I remember. What is it that you do nowadays?
Yeah, so the thing that's changed with Amnesty is driven really by the internet. So the ability to do online action, petitions essentially, which are online, the ability to take part in social media campaigns is obviously something that has developed over more recent years. So originally, as you quite rightly say, Amnesty's focus was a room full of people writing letters that would all get posted off. Now, as quaint as you might say that sounds today, that still happens, because it's astonishing the effect of a bag of real letters turning up at an embassy to protest about a particular prisoner of conscience, for example, compared to emails popping into an inbox, where of course it's very easy just to delete, in fact set some rules up such that you never actually see them if you want. So the letter writing still takes place. It's developed into other types of activism that are, today's version of that, I suppose.
So how do you decide which causes to support at your local branch?
The Amnesty UK has an extremely, and I don't profess to understand exactly how this works, but they have a quite a detailed process to determine which cases they're going to fight, if you like, or be active on, and then each local group can choose whichever of those, and it can be a particular prisoner of conscience, it can be a particular issue in a country which is more general, like a country like Burma, for example, at the moment. It can be a campaign that applies across a number of countries, like stop torture type campaign. So the local group chooses a number of those and then focuses on those in terms of the letter writing, the online activity, the public protest as well. Where they'll get together on Albert Square or St Anne's Square and have a stall, a table where you're stopping people and explaining what it's about, or trying to raise the profile of a particular campaign just by being there.
Right, I see. When it comes to supporting these causes, and as a performance poet, what do you do? Are you generally looking to advocate the universal values that we were talking about before, or is it you will actually take on board a specific case?
No, I think it's generally the universal values, and for me personally, it's getting people to come to these things that are raising money, and getting like people who follow me on Facebook and whatnot, and getting down, just come on down, pay your entry fee in, see what's going on, find out more about it, get more involved, get more active.
I'll tell you what, before we go into the break, and we're going to have another section with you guys next, tell us a little bit about Acoustic Amnesty. Draw people in.
Draw people in. Acoustic Amnesty is an amazing, amazing night. It's not just about Amnesty International, it's about many, many other different forms of charities, local and international, that you can help out. And at a time like this where, yes, you've got the bedroom tax, you've got all sorts of things going on at the minute where the least vulnerable, the most vulnerable, should I say, in society are being ignored or actively targeted, whereas other people who bankers' bonuses and other things that are just basically people not paying the tax, large companies not paying the tax like Vodafone and Amazon. No one's going for them, but they're going for people on benefits and things like that. So helping people out wherever you can is really important for me now, particularly about another 5 years.
I understand they've clarified their tax affairs actually. I may be wrong about that, so I have to be careful with that.
No.
But yeah, if I had the information in front of me, we stick with that, but I just need to qualify that.
No,
Okay, you're watching Late Night Live here on That's Manchester. My name is Nick Jerrison. We're talking to Amnesty at the moment, and we will continue the conversation next. Don't forget, if you want to feed into it, at That's Manchester on Twitter with any questions you'd like me to ask. We'll be back next. Welcome back to Late Night Live. With me tonight we have Stephen Lindsay of Amnesty International and performance poet Kieren King. So, Kieren, I'm going to get you to perform.
Yeah, I can make it manage, yeah. I can do one. I like doing this one. I'm from Salford, where I grew up. And one of the things that winds me up is the fact that we sometimes get, and often, that if anything good happens in Salford, generally in the Greater Manchester bubble, or if something bad happens in Salford, it's definitely happened in Salford. That's the kind of thing that winds me up. Yeah, chip on my shoulder, something great. And yeah, so this is about that. It's called Salford to Broadway. Salford is a Broadway musical. I'd never noticed it before, but Salford is a Broadway musical. Enter stage left. Tracksuit wearing troubadours, tinny mobile phone speakers, soundtrack a grand performance. The precinct is a cast of dozens, Gene Kelly in their way through puddles past pensioners monologuing the old days. Students dance with umbrellas. Parents pirouette with prams and child actors cry on command passing a toy shop window. They're all often upstaged by scene-stealing villains. It's a shame, because they're just a bit part. And Salford is a Broadway musical. You might not believe me, but Salford is a Broadway musical. The set, low budget. The cast didn't go to RADA. The audience don't clap politely like sea lions begging for fish. They're rocky, horror, rowdy. And the worst reviews come from those who haven't even been to the show.
I love it. Great. Yeah, really good. I tell you what I'm interested by as well is that poetry is one of those things that everyone thinks they don't like, and the reason that they don't think they like it is because they've read it, and when you read it, it doesn't work, and it's something you're supposed to say, you know, and it's always frustrating with that, so it's nice to get performance poetry.
It was the key thing when we were starting the Acoustic Amnesty fundraisers off. I go to a lot of music gigs and thought, right, we get some singer-songwriters involved, and then I saw the likes of Kieren doing his performance poetry at various events, and I thought, I didn't realise poetry could actually be like that.
Could actually be good.
Yeah, quite honestly, it just never did it for me, poetry, at school or whatever. Just, didn't. But it is that thing that you've just described. Suddenly you're listening to someone and you're thinking, right, that is performance poetry. So the idea was then get the performance poets involved in the events as well as the singer-songwriters, and it gives a nice sort of balance to the event. And Kieren has very kindly organised all the poets for all the events, so that we don't need to bother doing anything.
Brilliant news,
Yeah.
brilliant news. I mean, it's funny because I went to the Edinburgh Festival maybe a few years ago, and I got into watching performance poets and seeing that kind of thing. And I started to think there was a scene that was about to become mainstream. And I think more what was happening is I was getting into it. And I wondered, I'm going to ask you the question.
Go on.
Is poetry ever going to be mainstream again? Is that what's happening? Or is it just that some people like it and when they get into it they can't believe it's not mainstream?
I think it's always threatened. I think you have ebbs and flows. So in this latest time you have John Cooper Clarke, and he was the punk poet, but he was the one that everyone went around. And every now and then you'll have a little bit of a soar. I think we're on the crest of a wave now. You've got Kate Tempest was nominated for the Mercury Award, as was Polar Bear this year. A few years ago with Scroobius Pip. They all started as poets who've moved into hip hop. But then there's loads of other people who are like they're selling out theatre shows and they're playing Glastonbury Festival and doing Latitude and they're doing Edinburgh Fringe shows. And I think more people are getting more aware of it. It's getting more visible.
And it's interesting you should say that as well. Is that the hip hop thing has reminded people that it needs to be performed. And then once you get your head around that, you start to understand the concept of listening to the lyrics. I think that's wonderful. I think that's really good. So when it comes to Amnesty International, you're organising this big thing, Acoustic Amnesty. Is it the kind of thing that, you know, I'm not sure what I think about all these things. I don't know whether I agree politically or not with a lot of these things. Are you going to feel excluded if you go to Acoustic Amnesty if you don't buy into the politics?
It's a good point. It's very much an evening of entertainment. The Acoustic Amnesty events are entertainment. If you want, while you're there, to find out a bit about Amnesty or the other charities that we happen to be raising money for, the last one being Big Issue in the North, as Kieren mentioned, the next one being Manchester Women's Aid. If you want to find out about them when you're there, you can do.
Well, are you going to get lectures as well?
No, definitely not.
Right, I
No,
see, because
no.
I think that's why I left Amnesty. I don't enough of being preached to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, this is very much entertainment.
Okay, so when it comes to the causes that you support, how important is it that we look at our own country and the things that need to be fixed there? Because
Massive,
I suspect that there's a lot of that feeling, and like we were just saying before the break,
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff going on in this.
Massive. Well, the last Acoustic Amnesty and the next, as I've just mentioned, I think are good examples of that. Because the last one for the Big Issue in the North, you know, the people at the Big Issue in the North do such a good job. It's just such a great organisation, and it's increasingly important given the increasing level of homelessness over recent years. That's just, you know, that is just fact. So, you know, they loved the event because people weren't getting preached to. They loved the event as entertainment, and they loved the bit of profile that it gave them as well. And we loved the fact that we got in the magazine, which was good. But it, you know, so that was a good example of the local thing. The, you know, Manchester Women's Aid, you know, there's an organisation that works really hard to help women and their kids who have been subject to domestic violence and abuse. You know, that's as local as, you know, you're going to get. So it isn't some esoteric international thing. It isn't a case of I'm going to have to sit and listen to Stephen talking at me for hours on end about something or other. It's singers, poets, and it's all for a good cause.
Okay, so there's been a lot of debate, certainly on this show and in the media in general, about this idea of kind of extremism, countering extremism, and tackling extremist preachers. And some people believe that that is a clear threat to free speech and could cause us to have prisoners of conscience with whom we don't necessarily agree, but they could perhaps argue, say if someone, for example, if someone was to dislike homosexuals. Now that's not something that I agree with, and that's not an attitude that I support. However, if someone has that point of view and they are jailed for it, would that make them a prisoner of conscience?
I believe so. The difference that I think you have to make is, or the assessment you have to make is the person involved saying, for example, I believe homosexuality is wrong? Or are they saying, I believe homosexuality is wrong and we should attack homosexuals.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the second of those two, then that is hate speech. That is a line that is a line that has been crossed, and that is not a prisoner of conscience.
Right.
The prisoner of conscience would be someone who expresses a belief but doesn't incite violence.
It's a very thin line, isn't it?
Well, it's never easy, but if you allow freedom of expression, which is a fundamental thing, a lot of us believe, a fundamental thing, then you've got to accept that people will disagree with you.
Mm.
If we three were sitting in the pub having a conversation, within about half an hour we'd disagree on some things.
Mm.
But it doesn't mean to say that any of us should shut up and not be able to say what we say. So it's not easy, but you should err on the side of freedom of speech and free expression. So the so-called hate preachers or whatever are a good example of it, because if what they are saying is, to use the earlier example, which none of us would agree with obviously, I believe homosexuality is wrong, then they're entitled to the opinion and they're entitled to express it. People like Peter Tatchell are brilliant in that respect. Massive gay rights campaigner, as everyone will know. Brilliant what he does, and he's very, very firm in the view that if someone wants to make comments anti-homosexuality, easy for me to say, comments, they can do. If, however, they start saying, kill the homosexuals, it's not acceptable.
It's difficult, isn't it, to say words like evil, for example. Defining whether or not that's hate speech is very, very difficult to do, I think.
Accept that.
And it seems like a grey area. And the grey area that I'm assuming Amnesty would politically not really want to explore, because I'm assuming you would largely have people who were in favour of gay rights.
That's correct. That's correct. And that's why you find that an organisation like Amnesty is never the be all and end all to these sorts of as regards these sorts of things like campaigning for basic human rights. It's why you have other organisations. So using the earlier example, the Tatchell Foundation is fighting for particular in particular areas where organisations like Amnesty will actually not get involved in it because it's actually too difficult for them because of their international base.
Right, I see. Well, do you know what, chaps? I've really enjoyed chatting to you. I have a couple of things that I need to ask you. It's a local group. When do you meet?
Yeah, so the local group, if anyone's interested in getting involved, is every second Wednesday, 7:30, at the Cross Street Chapel on the Unitarian Chapel. On Cross Street.
Okay, fair enough. And then Acoustic Amnesty. When's
So
that?
the next Acoustic Amnesty, 16th of July. We have 4 singer-songwriters: Little Sparrow, Tracy Brown, Ravenin and his bandits, and we have Becca Williams, and we have 2 performance poets, Lee Spazzacoli and Rose Condor.
All right then, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure to chat to you. It's Late Night Live here on Matt's Manchester. We'll be back next.